Welcome to episode 26 of the Minnesota Vikings podcast. I am David Erickson, your host. You can find us at minnesotavikingschat.com. You can get all the links of what we're talking to live at the site right now. There's a post with all the links that of the stories we'll be covering. I am with Rick Birmingham. Rick is a longtime Vikings fan, fellow football player with me, and I forgot your title, Rick.
Director of Development for Neighbors in South St. Paul.
Yeah, so Neighbors is a food shelf, and they do many other good things. So neighborsmn.org is where you can find them, and do donate to them. So if you like the podcast, give Rick a shout out by donating to Neighbors. So let's talk preseason Vikings football, right? We just completed the preseason, 4-0 baby, undefeated in the preseason, right? We did some roster cuts. Let's start with that. I'm going to use a new feature of the Google Hangouts here to show the articles that we're talking about. So I don't know how this is going to work because we're trying it for the first time, but I've just showed that. An article by Andrew Kramer from ESPN Twin Cities on the Vikings roster getting younger. Their average age now is 25.5 years of age. They are the fifth youngest roster in the NFL. I guess that's not surprising unless you're sort of like the Dallas Cowboys, feeling it after several years after the Herschel Walker trade. A new coach will typically jettison older players in favor of younger players, right? But Rick, you had some interesting insights into the confidence of this coaching staff too. You want to relay what we talked about before?
Yeah, just to set it up, I think the biggest surprise of the cuts is that there weren't more surprises. For a new couple of coaches coming in, they just didn't slash and burn as coaches often do for a 5-win team. And where that took me is we have some veteran coaches that I think have enough self-confidence and confidence in themselves to not feel like they have to sign a bunch of free agents or whatever to put their stamp on the team to bring in their players. It's not that they didn't keep all but one of the draft picks. They did, but they didn't go get a mess of guys to replace them. And for Vikings fans, that's Childress and Denny Green. Denny Green threw away everybody who had an All-Pro, and it worked just great. But and Childress did the same thing. He had his guys. He got his guys in there. Frazier not so much, but he was coming from the team. He was already on the coaching staff, so I'm not sure that one really applies in the same way. But I think it's fascinating that they had enough confidence to keep the entire offense. Addition by getting rid of Ponder and having Castle practice with the team all preseason. It's very interesting to me.
Yeah, well, I mean the ones that you cite too. Denny Green is the one that brought in a bunch of really quality. I mean, his coaching staff was amazing. He had Tony Dungy. He had he had a bunch of high quality coaches and turned it around really quick because of that. I think we got some of the same thing going on here with Norv Turner, obviously the most prominent example of that, but also Andre Patterson. It seems like they've pulled together a good coaching staff. Mike Zimmer, reputation alone, he seems like he knows exactly what he's talking about. He seems to know defense in and out. He seems to know what he doesn't know, so he's hired Turner to coach the offense. And we won't know till we know, in the regular season what Zimmer's defense looks like. But so far, so good, I think.
Mm-hmm.
So let's talk about roster cuts. So we talked about the theoretical coaches bringing in, but we've got the actual. We did have cut down day. Big names that were cut: Fred Evans, defensive tackle. Joe Banyard, Alan Reiser were cut. Safety Chris Crocker, who was brought in, who played with Zimmer in Atlanta and Cincinnati, and it seemed like he would be the guy who would stick because of the familiarity with Zimmer's defense. Jamarca Sanford went to IR. Jerome Simpson, of course, is three-game suspension. The Vikings waived Larry Dean and Austin Wentworth to make room for Marquise Gray, former Gopher quarterback who played for Turner last year at Cleveland. as a fullback / tight end, and Mike Harris, a tackle who played for Turner in 2012 on the Chargers. So not a lot of big surprises there, except perhaps Fred Evans.
Yeah, it's not scorched earth. They kept most of the players. That in and itself is interesting. I mean, we saw all these guys do some things in preseason, but you always get guys cut that are in preseason. They also, I think, we don't suddenly have new kick returners or new kicking team or anything like that. It's very interesting for a 5.5 win team.
Yeah. So they did cut Banyard, but Banyard did make it through to the waiver wire, so he's on the practice squad, which is nice because he did show some. He did look good in the preseason, and they always do. They're running against second and third teams, so you got to keep that in mind. But still, they obviously wanted him. Kane Coulter, wide receiver, made it to the practice squad. Dante Foster, wide receiver. Chase Ford made it through waivers, so he's on the practice squad. Mike Remmers, tackle. Zach Karen, they picked up, who's a center. Kendall James, cornerback, made it through. Ismae Fasciani, defensive tackle. Justin Trateau, defensive end. And I think they're waiting for Wentworth to clear waiver wires. And I think they want to put him on the practice squad. So the Vikings have retained either on the practice squad or the 53-man roster all of their draft picks from this year.
Yeah.
So
that's exactly what any new coaches do, which they should. I mean, we could use youth for sure.
Yeah. So we talked about Marquise Gray. That's I don't know anything about. Maybe have you watched Marquise Gray at all? I don't know anything. I don't watch college football, so I don't.
Yeah, well, he was a quarterback, and he's not a quarterback anymore. So having watched him in college, mostly saw him playing for the Gophers and running around. He was a fair Gopher level quarterback. I haven't watched much of him as a fullback, but nobody has, because when he have 6 catches, and he hasn't played much. He's obviously still transitioning from quarterback to fullback, tight end, whatever it is he's going to end up to be.
Yeah. It always, I think it's always nice to have players who have had some quarterback experience, simply because they're typically receivers. They're typically going to handle the ball, in some fashion or another, and they have probably a better understanding of the entire offense rather than just what their role is in it. So that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Vikings, let's see. So there is an article on the Star Tribune. It was Pioneer Press. This is by Chris Thomason on an early talk that the coaches had with Teddy Bridgewater. So Bridgewater had the shaky outing, his first game against Oakland. He looked like a rookie quarterback in his first game in the pros. He didn't beat the world down or anything, and he had a couple of 3 days in a row of poor practices, and he was really hard on himself. And he says, this is a quote from the article, there were times during training camp when I was thinking that everything had to be perfect. And I found myself struggling for like 2 or 3 days back-to-back, Bridgewater said. Coach Zimmer and Coach Norv Turner Scott, they just kept coming to me and said, just play football. We brought you here to play football. You don't have to overthink things. It just seems like they really know how to handle quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, rookie quarterbacks who, first round pick, 32nd, of course, but still first round pick. It seems like, again, veteran coaching staff, they're playing it right. What do you think?
Yeah, number one is they left him on the bench. With Jackson, T-Jack, and with Ponder, they ended up throwing them both in there pretty soon. And I hope we're just not doing that again. It would be wonderful to let a guy develop. I wouldn't want to act like Bridgewater is out of the woods and everything, but his first game did look as much like a rookie game as a guy could have. He tried to hide the ball behind him on a play for just classic backyard football, and he was clutching it with both hands in the next game. That's all lessons worth learning, as with the other guys too. But it's so obvious for a quarterback.
Yeah.
It's exciting to have a guy that we can hopefully let mature on the bench.
Yeah, well, I mean, we've got Castle. Castle, they signed him to a 2-year deal, so obviously they had a plan in place. Bridgewater is not starting against the St. Louis, so I'd be fine having Bridgewater sit on the, as long as Castle doesn't stink, have him on Bridgewater sitting on the bench the whole season and just learn from him. And I think we can win with Castle. I think he's a decent enough quarterback given the right situation, given the good coaches who call good plays and enough talent around him, and he's got that now. So I think we're fine with Castle, and having the luxury of having Bridgewater be able to develop for a year would be great. But we did watch him in the preseason, and there's plenty of reason to be excited about Teddy Bridgewater. I know you're not a fan of lists, Rick, but let's create a list. Let's talk of the many ways that Bridgewater could be legit. Okay, it is preseason. He only played preseason. We haven't seen him play in an NFL game yet. But okay, first shaky game after Oakland, comes back and steadily improves over the next 3 games whenever he had a chance. What's yours?
Well, off the top of my head, my rookie quarterback litmus test is, do they ever throw the ball away? And he threw the ball away a fair amount, which was my initial introduction to Dante Culpepper. Was he would throw high and outside, or high and away from the defender, and he would just throw the ball away sometimes. I absolutely underrated. Some people obsess about it, but usually an underrated thing is, he did a couple rollouts and he had time and he could look at the field, and he still threw the ball away, which was just fine.
Yeah, he throws an accurate ball. He can throw a 15-yard, 20-yard out. Pre-snap reads. It's clear he's reading the defense before the play. He looks off defenders. I don't know how many times I've watched him look to the right side and find his receiver on the left side, and just not something we really got a lot out of Ponder.
No, it's preseason, but the playbook is twice the size. It's not huge, but the Ponder playbook was so small, and it's already bigger. He's got more plays than Ponder was running on an ongoing basis. It feels like, anyway, and that's a big deal too.
Yeah. No interceptions. He threw a bunch of touchdowns. The one thing I was super impressed with, and again, something we I don't think ever saw from Ponder, is he drew somebody offside with his cadence.
Yeah. Ponder years, and we never saw it. I was doing a watch, waiting for Ponder to eventually learn to do that. Never saw it. Very nice to see. And we saw a couple in a Green Bay, deep balls in a Green Bay game from Ponder that weren't just sailed up there. Bridgewater had a couple decent, not unbelievable throws, but that's an improvement. And I do think fits very well with having a good running back, to be able to just lob it up and have a guy go under it and not just have it be an air ball. We don't have Sidney Rice anymore to go get those.
Yeah. He had one, I can't remember which game, but he had one long bomb down the sideline to Adam Thielen that was perfectly thrown beyond the defender, went into Thielen's hands, and Thielen couldn't pull it in, but it would have been a touchdown had he pulled it in. So he can throw the deep ball. He's got beautiful touch. That fade against the Titans was an absolute thing of beauty.
Yep, it was. It was. I'm not ready to say he can definitely throw the deep ball, but it's already an improvement. I mean, it's already an improvement over Ponder. So wonderful.
The poise too. I mean, you see him in the pocket, and it's getting crowded in the pocket, and he's standing in there and finding his receivers and throwing the ball. He's not tucking and running at the first sign of trouble. He's not freaking out when people are at his feet. And the poise also showed through with his execution of the the 2-minute drill, the 1-minute drill to rally his team from behind for a victory in the final minute of a game, which, of course, we've never seen Ponder do.
True. Although, sadly, now we're having this conversation after everybody that was on the field on the other side is already gone and no longer playing in the NFL, but still a very good thing.
Reasons to be excited, though.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, all right, enough about this is probably, maybe, if we're lucky, probably the last time we talk about Teddy Bridgewater this year. Yeah. We go on to win with Castle, and Bridgewater learns, and he's the big guy next year. So, last topic of the day, Adrian Peterson made a call to Jerry Jones of the Dallas Cowboys, and his timing couldn't have been worse, because there was an ESPN reporter in the room when Peterson called Jerry Jones, and Jerry Jones allegedly let the reporter know that Adrian Peterson would like to play for the Cowboys after his time with the Vikings is over. So, maybe an investigation. The NFL, there's questions about tampering. There's, so we'll see how that plays out. But any surprise that Peterson might be giving Jerry Jones a call?
None. For my money, this is such a non-story. It's a fact. Peterson's likely to get cut in the next 2 years. He's going to be making a ton of money. He's going to be making twice what any other running back is making. He's going to be in a situation where they're going to ask him, will you play for less? And he's going to have to think about it. Why wouldn't you put your name out there? Apparently it's collusion and there's maybe something wrong with it, but it doesn't seem weird to me. It doesn't seem odd to me. It seems like what smart people do is cover themselves.
Yeah, he's 29 years old. He's currently the highest paid player at his position. His contract will pay him $12 million this season. Cap numbers increased to $15.4 million in 2015, $15 million in 2016, $17 million in 2017. So there's a lot of incentive for the Vikings to, if not cut him, try and get him to reduce how much he cost them. So not surprising at all. Lastly, that is the last topic, but I would encourage people. There's a great article on the Star Tribune by Matt Vensel on Cordero Patterson. It's pretty much just a profile of Cordero Patterson, so if you didn't know who he was as a person, that's a good article to read, and we don't need to talk about it, but I encourage people to read it. So let's wrap this up for this week. Let's watch Thursday nights for the weekly Minnesota Vikings podcast. So I will set up events, and you can subscribe to the events on Google+, but you can subscribe to the YouTube channel at youtube.com/Minnesota Vikings Chat. Follow us on Twitter at twitter.com Minnesota Vikings Chat. And during the games, use the Vikings Chat hashtag to talk about the game with all of your fellow Vikings fans. Like us on Facebook, facebook.com/Minnesota Vikings Chat, and circle us on Google+, MinnesotaVikingsChat.com/Google. And thank you for watching. Till next week, go Vikings.
1-0.